Pranam everyone. Good afternoon. So does change create fear or inhibition in you? Yes? No? Either ways, change is the only constant. We can't escape it. Bottom line. Speech over. To build a new world, we need a new foundation. A new world cannot be built on an old foundation because if the old foundation is faulty, we would only be bettering the faulty, isn't it? But one can only begin from where one is. And where one is always tradition, doesn't matter when, doesn't matter how. We are always standing on the ground of tradition. Tradition is what we know, what we have, and transition is what we don't know yet, what we don't have yet. One can only move to the unknown from what we know, right? So tradition is what we know, and transition is a process, a journey of the unknown. The story of my life. Change is the only constant and also the most feared. All of you said yes. And because it is feared, it is so analyzed and debated and discussed and talked about and all of this, like we're talking about it today, right? The topic is tradition and transition. We are talking about it today because you see it as two. I don't see it as two. I see it as one. Like the seed and a plant and a tree, and the process still doesn't end there, does it? It just keeps going on and on. So I see tradition as the seed, the beginning. Doesn't matter where it is. Our parents stood on their traditions, we stand on ours, but it is tradition what we stand on. It is the seed. Whenever we want to move towards something or we want to create something or build something, we plant a seed, and that seed is the transition. The tradition. The transition is the process, the journey. And the outcome is the end. Yet there is no end to change. It is the only constant. Therefore, on the journey of the unknown, there are many outcomes. And each outcome is something new, which is built with the ingredients of the known transition as well as what we have found on the journey of the transition. It is both traditional and modern, yet it is neither. It is something new, a new foundation. Am I confusing you? I don't mean to. I know I'm standing before law students today. Each one of you here can argue everything I say, every word that I say. It reminds me that before we could actually complete and release JL50, the film that I produced and acted in, we had to fight a 4-year-long legal battle. And it was a very hard process because I'm not a lawyer, but I became half a lawyer fighting that. We won. JL50 released and it became a huge success, but we won without even seeing the face of the courtroom once. That happens more often than not, right? Don't actually reach the courtroom. See, I know. I know. My mother often thought that I could be a really good lawyer because I can argue anything. Can I get a seat in your college? Jokes apart, on the mention of JL50, I find that to be a perfect example of today's topic, tradition and transition. Now, I'm a very hands-on producer, you know, there's this image of the producer that producer paisa lagata hai, piche baith ke aaram karta hai. I'm not like that. I never invest my own money, not a single penny. And I don't sit back and watch. I like to get involved in the seed and the plant and the tree and even beyond. I'm a creative sort of producer, right? So when I was watching the script of JL50 being written by Shailendra Vyas, who's the writer-director of JL50, a really dear friend as well, in 2016 he was writing this script, and the challenge that was faced was how to present a perceived foreign sort of genre of science fiction and time travel to a very, you know, fairly and majorly traditionally rooted Indian audience. And the solution that was found was to seed the tradition, the beginning of the story in the 9 Unknown Men of Ashoka. For those of you who've seen this film, and for those of you who have not, if you're really a lawyer, you're here for the right reasons, you're going to love it. So please watch it. I promise you're going to love it. So anyways, JL50 is where tradition meets transition. It is neither traditional nor modern. It has ingredients of both our traditional, you know, sort of Bollywood, what is accepted in our Indian film industry, but it is also modern. It brings in something that the Indian audience has not yet digested and eaten, and they did accept it as something of their own because it is rooted in their own tradition, right? So they accepted it. Now, JL50 is neither traditional nor modern, yet it is both. It is something new, a new foundation. Not just for the Indian audiences, not just for Indian cinema, but also for us as individuals and filmmakers. It's something we can keep building on, right? And that is precisely why I love working with genres like science fiction and mythology and fantasy in the process, in the art of storytelling. It allows free experimentation and seeds the possibility of evolution. Just in the imaginative, what if? What if? I love posing the question, what if, in everything that I do, because that is a question that I ask myself all the time. Nothing seems scary, nothing seems daunting. What if? Now you can take this imaginative what if and put it to any area of your life, any situation, anything that you're facing in life or working through. For instance, I often wondered, what if I wrote? What would I write? I've never written a film script in my life. I've read many, I've written none. In fact, there was a time when I would say, if someone put me on a gunpoint and said, write, or you will die, I would say, shoot me, I can't write. But there's nothing that one can't do if they put their mind to it. So more recently, I have finished writing and recording my first audiobook. It's titled Being Selfish, A Dream Chaser's Way Home. This book is an experiment with an expression of my own journey of transformation on the path of spirituality and meditation. Now, it is neither spiritual nor worldly, and it is both. So my initial proofreaders and those who have heard the initial chapters of the audiobook have said to me that it is something new. I'm not surprised. It is something new. Because it is both spiritual and worldly and neither, right? When two things come together, they retain some of their qualities, but they are not either. They become something new in the amalgamation. Works in relationships also like that. So, spiritual can be referred to as something ancient, something old, something traditional, but it is modern too, isn't it? Today, in this fast-paced, stressed world, depressed world, everybody's so sad, looking for some relief, and they're running to meditation and various forms of spiritual activity to kind of, get the peace and calm. And the world itself, worldly, is so ancient, isn't it? It's so old, it's rooted in tradition. It's all of the tradition of the world is what we are standing in, right now. But it is also modern. It is consistently changing and evolving. So are we moving backwards in time or forward? Time never moves. We are the ones who move through time. Time is always still, as Pankajji's character said in JL50. We are the ones who change and evolve consistently because that is the nature. And as we change, the world around us changes. Change is the only constant. There is no point fearing it. We cannot deny it. So, in this book, I have expressed a process of transformation that I personally went through. From a very traditional background of entrepreneurship and business, that's what my family is, that's where I come from, and the performing arts, which was a transition for me as an individual. But from the performing arts to transition into a meditative, spiritual way of life, it's a huge transition. And that is what I've talked about in this book. But I was only able to create something out of this newfound transformation is when I was able to see both the spiritual and the worldly, not as two, but as one. Or else there would be a conflict and no creation would come out of that. I was able to merge the two, and only when I was able to see it as one that I was able to start creating so many other things outside of film in my life and lay these new foundations. So, since it is a process, this change from the tradition to the transition, and it happens so many times, like I explained, it's a circle. It's a circle, not a straight line. We tend to see everything as a straight line, and anything that obstructs that straight line, is placed on that straight line, creates a divide. We start seeing it as two. But in reality, it is not two, it is one straight line. But the way I see it, it's a process that never ends. It's a circle. So now in duality, because when we are little, when we are like little children, what happens is that we get a name and we get personality, and we get to know all these things about ourselves, and then we know that this is my identity and this is someone else's identity. We start seeing things as separate. We start seeing things as two. A subconscious sort of for and against gets framed in our subconscious, and we operate from there. The unknown becomes a contradiction to the known. Yet, the known and the unknown are complementary in contradiction to common belief. It is the same thing. Consistency is valued in the world. Yes. Yes? Consistency is valued. But But contradiction, as I have found, is closer to reality, closer to truth than contradiction, because, than consistency, because change is the only constant. Change is the only constant, right? So, what I found is that in order to accept change, we must be courageous enough to contradict. Contradict tradition, contradict ourselves. Immense courage is needed to contradict tradition, to contradict ourselves. And so, I say to all of you, the easiest way is to not be for or against either. Embrace tradition, but embrace transition as well. I know that lawyers are used to picking sides. So when you're in a courtroom, pick a side. Fight for a side. Tell me some stories, I'll make movies out of them. But life is a mystery to be lived, not a problem to be solved. And courage is a love affair with the unknown. One cannot change the world, but one can be the change. See it as a circle, then you will see it as one. It will not be fearful. Change will not be fearful. Transition will not be fearful, and something new can be built out of it. Be courageous enough to be the change. Pranam, and thank you for this platform.